For decades, the property development playbook focused on a single predictable cycle: acquire land, build a grid of suburban rooftops, and sell them. It was a business model driven by residential volume and a simple rent per square foot equation. That model is reaching its limit. Sim Darby Property is reallocating capital through its Shift 25 initiative, moving away from residential development to secure multi-billion-dollar 20-year leases for hyperscale data centers. But the traditional landlord model still faces a technical ceiling. Developers who merely lease concrete shells to tech giants leave the highest margin value, the software layer, to their tenants. To break the cycle of property market volatility, developers are looking for a way to monetize the activity happening inside the building rather than just the building itself. Hyperscale tenants now operate under an $86 trillion exposure known as the macroeconomic doomsday corridor, a systemic risk created by unhedged artificial intelligence. This schematic identifies the technical root of that risk. When a probabilistic AI model lacks the exact verified facts needed for a task, its architecture forces it to bridge the gap by connecting unrelated patterns, a process called confabulation. When legacy automated compliance systems encounter these unverified actions, they trigger task paralysis. Capital is frozen and transactions are blocked because the system cannot confirm the actual intent behind the data. Because software cannot assume legal liability, the human operators are forced to absorb every cent of the resulting regulatory risk. This creates a critical requirement for a new kind of space, a deterministic enclave where liability is structurally hedged. Property developers are now internalizing the software layer, integrating sovereign governance frameworks like Mothership OS to create premium, liability-controlled environments. In this vertical topology, fiduciary authority is locked inside the apex law plane at the top, isolated from the product surface's AI reasoning. Every proposed action passes upward. The apex law plane gate prohibits machine-led execution without an explicit human latch. Equation 0 defines the null over invention mandate. The system is mathematically prohibited from generating a guess if evidence is missing. If Q equals 0, the only possible output is a hard null or block signal. By layering this operating system over physical space, the landlord transforms a simple data center into a sovereign deployment for regulated industries. This creates a revenue model similar to the relationship between a mobile OS and its carrier. Because the landlord provides the secure governance layer, they capture a share of every transaction processed within the enclave. Every transaction is sealed into an immutable worm ledger: write once, read many. This gives the tenant absolute data sovereignty, while locking in high-margin service fees for the developer who maintains the secure rail. Growth is no longer tethered to how many houses a developer can build. Instead, they scale through megawatts leased and a share of the software revenue generated inside. The landlord is now an active participant in the software economy, collecting far more than just physical rent. For owner-makers in markets like Hangzhou, these enclaves solve a practical daily struggle. These independent businesses must manage a constant stream of international payment evidence and customs requests. The system connects fragmented chat promises and payment screenshots into a single, evidence-bearing record, ensuring no customer deposit is disconnected from the production floor. This DSAR proactive escalation flowchart shows how the system responds to a banking query. It pulls verifiable telemetry from the worm ledger to automatically compile an unassailable compliance dossier, unfreezing capital in as little as 24 hours. Throughout this process, the human liability lock remains engaged. The AI suggests the path, but the owner remains the ultimate sovereign authority over every production and payment decision. These enclaves provide small business owners with enterprise-level precision, allowing them to compete in global markets without building their own governance infrastructure. This law plane is not arbitrary. Mothership OS anchors its authority in sovereign legal orders, tracing its legitimacy all the way up to international treaties like the UN Charter. The value of real estate is shifting toward a new standard, where the worth of land is determined by the safety and security of the digital governance it provides. The industry is transitioning toward a new metric of value, where a developer's balance sheet depends less on the acreage they control and more on the deterministic safety of the digital ecosystems they govern.